this is Axis and Allies on the 2 or Less channel. We are playing E40 today with a house rule, because you know I like a good house rule. This one is called Town and Region. It modifies combat by a smidge, allowing units to retreat back into cities mid-battle. Now, before we get into that, I should mention that I make these videos in aid of a charity called Cure Parkinson's. You can guess what they're trying to do. There is a link to them below this video and one in the banner on the channel page. If you happen to have a spare dollar, euro, yen, yak, IPC you could send to them, I am sure that they would appreciate it. Now, this house rule fits easily onto 2 sides of an A4 sheet. I shall snip this, bung it onto the end of the video. You can grab that then or now if you want to. It's full of flam and caveats. It's fairly easy to follow, so I won't be doing a long rambly intro as is often my wont, so we will get on with the game properly. But what I'm anticipating is this set of videos is probably going to be 4 or 5 videos in total. It's going to be very German centric, because obviously Germany get that first smash into France and French units can retreat into Paris. So we'll be concentrating on Germany and doing after action reports for everybody else. So until then, I'll flip you over to the other side of the camera and I'll give you a quick demonstration of how things may or may not work. So this is pretend, this is make believe. Let's just make believe that this French Equatorial Africa is actually a Chinese state, and there are 5 Chinese guys in here. This is a capital city. Other cities could be available. Because things happened back in the day, like Leningrad survived nearly 900 days of siege. Why do cities fall when territories fall? That was the idea behind this idea. So let's say, for instance, we have this attack by the Germans against the Chinese in Equatorial Africa, and let's suggest that of this battle, one of these guys loses after the first German attack. 3/4 of the remaining units can retreat into a city. I've made some cards up myself which have got some differing values on there as to what can retreat and what can they battle back with. They're in the city, they can't do anything. This guy will now get his defensive dice roll. Depending on what happens here, he might say take another German out. Now, on the second round of that combat, should this guy survive the attack from the Germans, he could retreat into the city. If he doesn't survive, he can be taken away from the board. After this outside area battle has been completed, that would be the end of the combat. These Chinese guys in their collect income phase can collect half of their income if it's their capital which is being ransacked and attacked and they're sieged in there. Otherwise the normal rules would apply. But the moment the city is formed, it also produces 2 militia infantry new to these set of rules. They defend at 1. The city cannot come out of here and attack. They can only defend when they're in here. These guys here can be attacked from other regions, or they can attack this city. The attacks on the city will be single dice roll affairs. The IC that will be in this region will not be usable by these guys or by these guys. So let's have a look at how it would work with this E40 game, which is particularly apt for this game when over in France. So we have France here and Germany here. The usual thing that would happen is Germany comes sweeping through into France and have several dice rolls with which to take out these French forces. But they can retreat into their city, or at least 3/4 of the surviving units can retreat into the city. You can't put planes into the city, you can't put tanks into the city, you can't put anti-aircraft into the city. It's just infantry and artillery. And so it will give a different choice of what units will get removed after that first German dice roll. Germany have to make sure, if they can, that they do manage to entirely smash the whole of France in one dice roll. Otherwise, they'll be collecting income and trying to spend that in this industrial complex or in this industrial complex. However, obviously Germany could come around and do the 2-pronged attack, taking Normandy, Bordeaux and France all in one go. and hope they get the numbers right, and hope that Italy get the numbers right in southern France as well. Otherwise, the French capital will be standing long enough to produce a few units and a little bit more of a headache for Germany. It takes away that scripted early first move of bang, 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 keep hitting France until it goes under. It takes away some of the attack against the Brits out in the North Atlantic and the North Sea. Not all of it. Some of it will still happen, but it will reduce some of the pressure on the Brits there and give you something new to think about. And as you know from many of my videos, that twisting the way around that you play this game is always going to be good fun. So which is why we're using this E40 as demonstration. Is the first thing that happened is we're going to be seeing how cities work or do not work within the rules of this game. So let me set this up and I shall see you then. Okay, after some thinking time, we've got some purchases for the German authority. They have bought themselves one minor industrial complex and some artillery, which the complex is going to go over into the Romanian space for later on when Germany start washing through into the Soviet Union. They've made decisions about battles. It was a little bit more thinking than I anticipated, but not as many changes as I thought were going to happen. I had an idea of possibly taking this submarine down through the Straits of Gibraltar, because you can go through there with submarines in G40, and help out any possible difficulties the Italians may have in this Mediterranean. But in the end, we decided no, the collective thinking was to have a go at this fleet in the English Channel, with some bombers, with some tactical bombers, and with some fighters that come from various parts of Germany, Holland and Belgium. A major part of the air wing is going to do the French campaign. We'll see that in a minute. And up here in the North Atlantic, or the North Sea, sorry, we have the British fleet up here being taken on by one German battleship, a couple of submarines, and a bomber and a fighter. Slightly lighter than we'd usually be, but I think it should be enough to get that job done. There'll be other non-com moves, and also obviously the normal walk into Finland up there that's going to happen. But for the attack into Holland, Belgium, Germany are relying on one artillery and 3 infantry units versus 1 and 1. They're hoping that should be enough, and I can't see that there are going to be too many problems. I often would use an air unit there, or maybe even a tank unit, but this time around we want to make sure we get as much damage done on France as we can do. Here is the battle for France. As you can see, Germany brought in a load of tanks from Holland, Belgium and Great and Southern Germany. They brought some fighters and some tactical bombers in for all over the place. Slovakia, Hungary, I think it was some of the places they've come from. But they've managed to move in just enough units that a spectacular role would actually end France in one movement. I can't see that happening. Obviously, you're going to hope it's going to happen, but they're going to reduce down the number of units that France will be able to retreat into their city should they survive and should they choose to after the first roll of combat. So, here are the dice in front of me. Let's put it somewhere convenient, so we can all see the rolls happening live. And while I'm doing, I should just actually mention that one thing that I forgot to say that I've had put onto this set of rules is with the IPCs. If a city is formed in France, then France will lose those IPCs, but Germany won't gain those IPCs until they actually take the territory and the city itself. While a city exists, you can't take the IPC from your opposing forces. And also, what I've said is, and it's my way of thinking that if, say, France is producing here 4 IPCs for its people, if it's invaded, the people there aren't going to work as hard for the German authorities as they would do for their own authorities. So IPCs in captured territories are going to be worth half their regular value and rounded down. So if say the Soviet Union get into Slovakia, Hungary, which is a 3 value place, it will be worth 1, and 1 would be the minimum because you can't round down 1 to nothing. well, you can, but it wouldn't work out very nicely for anybody in this game. So let's get on with this battle. I usually tend to mention that I roll dice in various different colour orders, and black being the higher register in case I forget to mention it at the time. So the first thing that will happen before any of these battles really take place properly is the French anti-aircraft will take a shot. It's got 4 planes coming in it, so you can roll 3 dice maximum for it, and they hit on a 1. So French anti-aircraft, and they all miss, which is, it was 50-50, wasn't it, really? So that I'm going to put back on the battle board, be taken as a casualty, because I'm sure it's going to be taken as a casualty very, very quickly. So thinking about what France can retreat into Paris is only French unit, it's only artillery and only infantry. Of course, Germany can attack with other units, more units than that later on, so they're not worried about their casualties too much themselves. So we're going to have 2 tactical bombers going in at 4 and 2 fighters going in at 3. That's these 2 here, and we also have 6 tanks down there, which I shall roll separately in a second. So the tactical and the fighters going in first, 4s and 3s, and we've got a hatful of misses. Oops, that's not a good start for Germany. Oh, sorry, there was 1 4 there, wasn't there? My mistake, there was 1 4 there, so that's 1 damage off of the British forces. I think actually we'll take the anti-aircraft gun first. We remove that from the game. Now we've got 6 dice for the tanks, all rolling in at 3, and their value for attack in the cities is going to be different, and I'll point that out to you later on. So we have 6 tanks at 3s, and again just the 1 hit, so much under rollings. It's going to be taken off of one of the British units, because that's one of the ones which can't retreat into the city. That will go onto the casualty strip. After that, what's left for the Germans? That's some pretty poor rolling by them. We were thinking that might obviously happen, but you wouldn't want it to happen. We're going to have 2 infantry, 2 artillery combinations. That will be 4 at 2. I beat those 4 dice. And there is 4 mech and 1 guy. That's another 5 dice at 1s. So 2s and 1s. This is a poor start for Germany, but perhaps a good demonstration of how this city thing is going to work. And there's a few more hits they wanted to see there. Not that many there actually. That's one of the 4s, so one of the 2s, and that's one of the 1s. Oh dear, that's just 2 off the French forces. Well, they might as well take that off of the plane, or no, let's take it off the British tank and 1 French tank as well, because of what happens in the next part of the round. And you'll see that in a minute for sure. With this bad rolling, you'll see what's going to happen there. So that's the end of the Germans' first round of attack. Now, at this point in time, the city is formed. There's one city getting formed. I should put that over there on the board. And 3/4 of the French units can retreat back in there. And it's numerically 3/4 of whatever units that they have in there, not their friends. They have so far 6 infantry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 1 for the artillery. 7, 8, 9. So effectively 6 units can retreat back into that city straight away, which is going to be 6 men, stout and hardy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the maximum retreat into that city straight away. And formed alongside them, 1 second, will be 2 militia units represented by our friends the Chinese. And militia units will be defending at 1, but they are in the city now. They cannot be taken, they cannot be grabbed by the Germans, because they've retreated into that city and their retreat has been covered by the remaining units that are here. These are still on the battle board. These are the only ones that can return fire. And as such, we have 1 fighter at 4. We have 2 tanks at 3, which is the French and British tanks that are in there. So 4s and 3s, and just the one hit off the Germans. And then they have a artillery unit which is going to roll in there at a 2 and gets a hit as well. Okay, take that guy off down there. So after that, we're now going to have the German reply. Let me just tidy up the chips on these guys here. 1 second. So these guys were lost in the first attack. This is all that's left up in France itself. Germany are going to smash them now, but not the cars that have cheated into the city. So we have 2 tactical bombers at 4 and 2 fighters at 3. And we have 2 hits. That's the only thing we need to get is 2 hits. These 2 guys are lost without anybody else having to roll any dice. But they're going to get their reply before he falls over voluntarily. The fighter will go in at 4 and get a hit, and the artillery at 2s, and doesn't get a hit. So another 1 unit is lost from the German divisions. That is the end of that battle. France has fallen because we've got a disc on there saying France has fallen. But the IPCs, as I said, do not go to Germany. They come off of France's tracker. And France itself, well, Paris, we shall leave there. Paris in Spain. There's one in Texas, so why shouldn't there be one in Spain as well? That is a unit that is now in France, and Germany will have to attack them at the start of turn number 2 because they want to get Paris done and done. And when it comes to France's turn, they will be collecting half their IPC total this turn because their capital is still alive, but it's under siege. It's all in the rules. If you didn't have rules, where would you be? France. Let me roll out the rest of the round, and I will probably see you, unless something spectacularly bad happens, like the first roll for the Germans there, I shall probably see you when we get back to the start of turn number 2 and Germany's reply, or at least a précis of the turn 1 and then the Germans' reply in turn number 2. Okay, I can't remember what I promised to tell you at the end of the last clip of the video because so much has happened, it's completely befuddled my mind. One of those turns where you think, I wish I had recorded all that so you could see the craziness that happened. Amazing battles up there in the North Sea. As you can see, a small British contingent left around the Bristol docks and 1 German submarine. The rest of it is entirely gone. Britain were quite, shall we say, reticent in scrambling too many units, but they ended up having to scramble more than they wanted to, and they've lost just about everything that was there. There is some German contingent up in the Baltic Seas, but again, it's quite small itself. Russia, or the Soviet Union, have put themselves along the border across the front. They are setting their stall out quite early to say that if you want to come forward, Germany, you're going to get some heavy resistance against us. As we said before, Germany have made it into Paris. They also made it into Normandy and Bordeaux, and the Italians did get into southern France. But spectacularly, in the Mediterranean, there's virtually nothing left. One of those hell of a good battles, almost one of the battles that I played out in my Big Sea, Big Air video a while ago. Because it went off everywhere where I thought it wasn't going to go off. It's just the way the things happened. Again, North Africa, that turned out to be spectacular. I can't really say that the Brits were lucky to hang on, but I do think that Italy were unlucky in the rolls that happened down there. France have moved themselves forward into Tunisia to threaten Libya. So Italy are looking 2 ways there, but nobody looks particularly strong there at all, as often is the case. What will happen at the start of next turn, as I promised you, is France will be defending their state of Paris, which is just there in front of you. They can yet still purchase units. The only things that they can purchase will be militia units, and they will cost 2 IPCs. Should France actually win a battle in France itself and say Germany lost control of France, city would disappear and militia at a 2-for-1 price would be reverted into infantry. But that's not going to happen. There's no way that the Brits or the Americans or the Soviets are going to liberate France and release that city. But Germany can attack that city. Their air units will count France and Paris as one complete state, one movement into there. There's no shilly-shallying around with how you would count that up. The only units that can defend for France or for anybody in a city is defending militia at 1, defending artillery and infantry at 2s. Attacking for them, different numbers will be infantry and fighters will attack the city at once, figuring they're trying to get into nooks and crannies where the defenders have got themselves ensconced. Artillery and tanks, they can hit a bit harder, but again, they're still only attacking at 2s because of the type of terrain they're going into. And bombers, TACs and strats and everything like that can attack at 3 or less. So we reduce the numbers down for city defences. There is no anti-aircraft in there. So that will be the start of turn number 2 when Germany will get into Paris and try to beat up those contingent of Paris guys in there. France, as I said, they can purchase militia units. They can't place anything else because they haven't got an industrial complex. The one that's in France is unusable by the Germans, unusable by the French, and the ones that are in Normandy, Bordeaux and the south of France have been taken by their enemies. So let me have a little nap now, because that has been so spectacular, it's knackered me out. I'm going to have to go and get something to eat, cup of tea, cup of coffee, something like that, and then I shall stick the French defence of Paris up on the board and we will see how that all works out in a wee while. Okay, we're up to turn number 2 and we've got things ready to go for Germany. They haven't scheduled very many attacks this turn. They're going to try and hit this British fleet in the Bristol Channel with a submarine and a couple of bombers. They could have used those in the Paris attack, but they figure that, well, Paris is going to be a done deal. Whether it's 1 or 2 turns, it would be nice to get it done sooner rather than later. However, all that France have in Paris is 8 guys in there, and they're not going to be battling back very strongly. They're going to try to hit the Brits and knock them out of the game. They could have faked a sea line attack, really, or even tried a sea line attack, but I figure that the amount of times it works properly against the UK is very, very few. So they're going to concentrate on getting France done and building up more forces on this eastern border against the Soviet Union. To that end, they bought themselves infantry, artillery and a destroyer. Whilst the Brits are tied up down here in the Med, let's see if we can get Britain done and dusted, as well as or severely crippled, I suppose is what we're trying to say, really. Here is the battle in France. Now, as you can see here, these are the Paris units. The infantry, they are regular infantry, they will be defending at 2 as a normal infantry unit would do. But the 2 militia units that were formed in there straight away from the first turn, from when the city was formed, they defend at 1. The Germans don't get it all their own way, however, because they are attacking the city. Street fighting is different to regular fighting. So their mechanised infantry and their infantry, if there was any, would all be attacking at 1s only. Artillery and tanks are at 2s, so the tanks come down 1 register. There is 6 of them, so they expect quite a few good attacks from there. However, no combined arms, so that tactical bomber can't be up there, and because of these rules, the fighters attack at 1 as well, because they like little 50 cal machine guns trying to buzz around the city rather than the Stratton tanks that can drop bombs on the city itself. So we've reduced down the numbers here as to what, where and when can move. And we sort out all the damage after this single dice roll battle. So let's get this up on the board here. The attacking planes that we have here now is 2 at 3, which will be the 2 black dice. Get myself a bit more organised. And we have 6 tanks and 2 artillery. So we want 8 I haven't got enough red dice available, so we'll do that separately in a second. So these two will be going in at 3 on their first roll of the attack, and they get 1 hit. We put that to one side. We've now got 6 tanks and 2 artillery, so we've got 8 dice in my hand. They're all going in at 2s, and it's just the 1 hit again. This is not good. Germany would have hoped to have gotten, really I would have thought, 3 or 4 hits by now. All that's left now for them is the 1 fighter and the 4 infantry units, mechanised infantry that they are. So we roll those in one handful, and at ones again just the 1 hit. Well, you couldn't expect too many more from the 1 in 6 chances. So just 3 damage done to the French in that region. Now France can take out 3 casualties. 2 of them will be the militia units, because they're the weakest ones, and 1 infantry proper. So they're still going to be fighting back with all those guys. They are going to get 1 dice roll. We're going to have the 2 militia rolling in at once, and one of them got a hit. One guy. And of the 6 infantry units that were still alive at the start of the battle, all going at 2s, and just 1 hit from them. So that's 2 removed from the German side, which will just be 2 mechanised infantry, leaving them 2 in there for later on. That is the end of the battle for Paris. It's a single dice roll affair. It's stodgy, it's sticky, it's going to be hard work. Germany would have expected to have done more damage this time round from there. France, on their purchase phase, which are going to be at the end of this turn number 2, when France takes their turn, can purchase 2 militia units. It would cost them 4 IPCs in total, 2 for each of them, and they get placed directly back into the city. So whilst France can replace units, they can only replace weak units with weak units. This infantry unit can't get rebuilt. It would just be 2 militia units going in there. So it's going to be hard work for France from here. Hopefully, for Germany's sake, they'll get a better smash next time round once they're sorted out the Brits. So Poppet's moving around being a very naughty girl. Once they sorted out the Brits in the Bristol Channel, and then probably Germany will start thinking more about going across to the eastern side of the map and start sorting out the Soviet Union. Because I think with the damage that has been done so far in the Med, Italy are probably capable of holding on to that, if not keeping hold of very much of North Africa, but certainly can start controlling the Med a little bit more than they often would do in this game. I will see you at the end of turn number 2. That is young Poppet down there, fast asleep. Oh, moving because she heard her name. The one that was mucking around while we were doing it last time. Let's have a review of what happened in turn number 2. Obviously, we've seen the Paris attack. That was a spectacular underroll for Germany. It wasn't a failure, they just rolled underneath it. I don't suspect they'd be too unhappy with that, really, because France have managed to build themselves militia units. It cost them 2 IPCs from the bank which they're building up, but that really is a bank that they're holding, because when Germany eventually do come through and get into Paris, they're going to take the Paris funds, which is just going to be money for them to continue their campaign with. I don't envisage Germany hitting Soviet Union down south here this term, because obviously they've built up some forces here into Romania. There's about 5 artillery and 8 infantry I can see, some planes and some tanks, but the Soviet Union have pulled back from Bessarabia into Ukraine, which gives them some breathing space and gives them some time. So if Germany want to do an early attack, which I think they really are spoiling for before the Soviets get too big for their boots, it's going to be Poland into East Poland or the Baltic states, and that's a harder proposition because they've got fewer units up there. So whilst Germany have got aspirations for hitting the Soviets early, I think they're going to struggle to justify that move. But we never know with the Germans. They might just pull their fingers out of the pie and really sort of go for it. Gun-ho standard. And gun-ho standard was what happened in the Mediterranean. You may be able to see there are no Italian ships in there and no Italian aircraft in here either. I thought Italy had this, if not sewn up, under control, but the dice said otherwise. And well, Germany had to help out the Italians down here anyway because of the Italians' failure to get Greece first time, and in fact they lost all their units from that was in Albania. That was a little bit embarrassing for them. However, they did try to do something down here in the west of Africa, and again the Brits were too strong for them. They had some good dice rolls here. Alexandria Tobruk, that's remained a stalemate. I think really it was a wait and see policy on both sides, and I think really there wasn't enough that Italy could have done anyway, so that's probably there was their only choice. America land, well, they're still fast asleep, pursuing their isolationist policy. I can't see them coming over and being awakened by anything that Germany can do in turn number 3, which is upcoming. But I think we've done enough for this video now. I shall end it just about here, and we'll pick up with this town and region household in video number 2 shortly.